You purchased a Nikken PiMag Waterfall. Yay! You made the right choice for you, your family, and your pets. Don't forget about your pets. But not your plants. The water's too alkaline and you'll kill your plants. Okay, so now you've got your system, what do? I'm going to help you walk through some steps that's going to make your transition and the setup super easy and simple. First things first, it's going to come like this in the box. You're going to have your mineral stones too. They're going to be in a bag, and you're going to have your cartridge filter. Okay, this is the creme de la creme. All right, so let's deal with the filter cartridge first. We're going to take it out of the plastic housing. You're going to take this gray little top off. It just kind of clicks on and off. You're going to take these pre-filter pads out, these white little cushiony things. So I'm going to take them out. I'm using a butter knife. You could use a flathead screwdriver. Obviously, safety first here. So we'll take the pads out, and then we're going to need to soak the filter cartridge. I recommend soaking it for about 8 hours. First off, so you're going to find a little pitcher. Or you can use a bucket or a pail or something you'd make soup in. So from there, you're going to put that in, and you're going to put the pads in also. So actually, let me do that because I know my little pitcher here is kind of tight. So I need to squeeze my pad in there, and then I'm just going to toss the other white pads in. But it has to be underneath your purple gasket. Purple gasket. So when you fill the water in, you're going to pour it in on the sides. And again, you want to keep the water right up to the purple line, but don't go over it. So the water is going to help absorb into the filter and kind of get the sediment loose that we don't need. All right, so that's going to soak for 8 hours. Now, don't just forget about it. You want to check it periodically. That's why overnight might not be ideal, because the water is going to be absorbed, and you do want to keep it up to that purple gasket line. So check it every once in a while, and you might need to add a little bit more water. Okay, so that sets aside. Next, the mineral rocks. Now, Nikken doesn't say to do this, but I find that the mineral rocks have a really strong minerally taste, which is okay for some people. I don't really like it. So what I do is soak those as well. So I'm just going to soak those, same thing, for as long as the filter's soaking, right? It's not rocket science. All right, so these are soaking. Now let's deal with our system. So we've got the top of the system. This is your fill tank. And there's actually a top here, which is apparently a top of the supply tank. I never even knew it came off, but it does come off. So if yours comes off, fine. We're all going to wash this with some warm soapy water. Just make sure you dry it completely before you snap it back on, because it could, create some mildew or something under there. And so this is your supply tank. And it also comes off of its little housing here. Okay, so if that comes off, that's fine. So we're going to take this, we're going to run some soapy water through warm, not hot. And when you do that, just use a sponge, nothing abrasive, and don't use paper towels to dry it, because it'll leave those little nubby residue things that are no bueno. Okay, so after we've got our system washed and dried, we've got our mineral rocks that have soaked and our cartridges that have soaked for about 8 hours. We're going to place the mineral rocks inside the supply tank. Okay, so what happens is the gross tap water that you fill up the top with goes through this awesome filter cartridge and takes out everything that we don't want, right? The chlorine, the chloramine, the VOCs, the pesticides, the herbicides, the prescription drugs. Gross. Once that gets all removed, we need to add some trace minerals back into the water. So that's what these mineral rocks are doing. First, put the mineral rocks inside the supply tank. And you'll notice in the supply tank, there's that little circular sort of reservoir, a little canal in the middle. We want to make sure that no rocks get into that, because that's where our filter butt, essentially, is going to live. And we also want to make sure that no rocks get in front of this little white valve where the water flows into, because that'll prevent our flow from being super strong. Mineral rocks go inside. Okay, just like that. Take the ones that have fallen in out. Now we're going to take out our filter. You can dry it off a little. We're going to put our pre-filter pads back in. Now here's a tip. Once you get the filter pads out of the water, give them a good squeeze. They're a sponge, right? They're going to absorb water. So what the squeeze does is, one, gets the water out. Obviously, water is going to go right back in. But getting the water out, it also gets the air bubbles out. So that's going to help make the flow of the water super strong going through the cartridge. We reassemble like a little puzzle, putting the pieces back in. Super fun. And we put the top on top. You'll hear it click in. Now, another tip. Before you put this filter cartridge back inside, there's that purple gasket, right? We talked about that before. Sometimes the little rubber is down, okay? We want to make sure the rubber is facing up because that's going to create your awesome little suction so no gross tap water gets through. We're going to put the top back on. All right, now we're going to put the cartridge inside. Whoop, reverse. Now, when it goes in, you have to give it a little squeeze. And you'll see it kind of sinks down, and that creates the suction, right? When you start filling in water into the fill tank here, and it runs through, it might go a little bit slow at first, right? Because the water's got to get into the filter and sort of soak up. But that's okay. So after a couple times, the water's going to start running faster and faster. But you want to make sure that you've created a good suction, and you'll know that you hadn't if you fill the water up in the top and the bottom tank fills super quick, then it's not working. You haven't created your suction. Now we're going to fill our water. We're going to fill our supply tank. And I can see there's no water. Sometimes you'll actually see water sliding down the cartridge, and then you know too you haven't created a suction. So there's no water filling in. I see the water filling up through, so we're doing good here. The fill tank on the top and the supply tank down below, only one can be filled at one time. So this is to fill all the way to the top, great. Then it'll go down into here. Once this tank is full, do not put more water in here, right? If this is half full, this can only be half full. All right? So you can only have one full at one time. This is not like a reservoir tank. It's just a fill tank. Once you've got your system fully assembled, last step is to flush the system. Nikken recommends you do that for 2 cycles. You're going to put water in the top of the fill tank. You're going to let it go down into the supply tank. Before that happens, you want to bring your system over to the sink counter. And let's pretend this white towel is the sink. So I've got my system next to the sink. I've got my supply tank that I just filled with water. It's drained to the fill tank, and it's drained to the supply tank. So what I'm going to do now is lift the lever up, and the water's going to pour out. All right, so once that's run through at least 2 times, and no, this is your little lever, so you can push it, and that's how you fill your glass, or you can pull it, and it'll hold, and that's how you fill, something that's bigger. And now we want to set the indicator light. That's essentially your timer. It's going to tell you when you need to replace your filter. So it should press, and it's green. That means your filter is a go. But since, you've already kind of used the filter timing by just flushing it, we want to restart it. So you just press and hold it for about 8 seconds. It'll blink, and then it'll go solid, and then you let it go. There you have it. I know I gave you a lot of information, but you can always go back and watch the video again, and again, and again, if you need. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. So I'm Michelle Garcia. Please thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.